Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Dan Banchero Show. I'm your host, and still a major league piece of work, Dan Banchero, where we're talking about feeling good, getting through life experiences. We take some quotes from some books that inspire others, and I tell you how I screwed up my life and learned from my mistakes and got through it. Hope everybody's having a great week. So I've been observing how the world works nowadays, and I've been making some adjustments to this little production I've been putting together for everybody, and I decided I was going to start shortening these episodes to maybe 10 to 15 minutes, because my goal originally was to keep it at 20 minutes, but lately I've been going closer to a half an hour. I know a lot of people watch this show from their cell phone, and I can't expect everybody to listen to me and my fat yap go for that long, so I'm going to start breaking each year into different segments in chronological order, and we'll see where we go from there. Hope you're all having a great week. I got one of my favorite shirts on today. Yeah, I'm ready to have a good time shirt, but glad it's not raining out. It's beautiful out here in San Bruno. We're at Cherry Park, one of my old stomping neighborhoods from back in the day. So I left off in 2010, last episode, and I remember towards the end there, I was on the phone one afternoon with my buddy Dan Gerhardt, and I was talking in the living room, and Shauna was at work, and I saw Stella climb over to the, crawled over to the couch, and she climbed up, pulled herself up there, and she turned around smiling at me. She just took off and took 11 or 12 steps, and she crashed. It was the first time she ever walked. I was on the phone with Dawn. I said, "Hey, Dawn," I go, "Stella just walked." I was all excited, and she was smiling. She picked herself up again. She tried to do it a few more times. And so I talked about going back to rehab, and so January 2nd of 2011, I exited rehab, and I didn't really know where I was going, and I didn't know what I was going to do for work. But I had a job lined up at the Counter Burger Joint in San Mateo, and Shauna and I had decided to allow me to stay back at the house again and give it another go. Not so much for the sake of the relationship, but for the sake of Stella, I'd say. But, we still weren't on the same page about certain things, and it was really hard. She was being very cautious, and rightly so. And, my intentions were to try to help, provide for Stella and be a good dad. But, my character hadn't completely changed, which is the main purpose of going to rehabilitation or doing some type of appraisal on yourself to identify what's working in your life and what's not. And it's not so much the people in your life, it's how you're reacting to different viewpoints and how people live their lives, and being able to accept it for what it is. And I wasn't there yet. I thought I was, but I wasn't. So I was there for a couple of weeks, and the bickering was continuing here and there, and we're having our disagreements. And 3 weeks out of rehab, I just over about 100 days, and I started drinking again. I couldn't tolerate what was going on, and some people are just not meant for each other. It's not about being right or wrong. It's just about being different, like I said in past episodes. I got this book as a gift last week from a lovely lady. It says, "And what is the right woman, the right man? Someone who wants to go in the same direction as you. Someone who is compatible with your views and your values, emotionally, physically, economically, and spiritually." And that's from The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz, quoted in some of his other books like Voice of Knowledge and The Four Agreements in the past episodes. So I just got started on this book, and this passage was right there for me, and it was a great way for me to lead off 2011, because some things just don't work. No matter how hard people try, some things just don't work. But I think the key for me was identifying that it wasn't really right or wrong, it was just two different viewpoints. So I remember one night I was out in the city, and I was drinking, and I came home, and I was able to pretend that nothing had happened. And the next day, I remember the New York Jets were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC Championship game, and I was drinking in the house. Sean was at work, Stella was with her grandmother, and I was getting loaded, and I was watching the game. The Steelers would beat the Jets and advance to the Super Bowl, play the Green Bay Packers that year. So what happened was, I knew Shauna was going to come home, and I was trying to avoid a confrontation because she was going to obviously know that I was drinking. So I packed a blanket, I packed a pillow, and I still had some empty containers in the back of the car. And I jumped in my Mustang, and I made a right turn onto El Camino, and about 5-6 blocks after I got onto El Camino, I got pulled over by the San Mateo Police Department. It wasn't clear why he pulled me over. The officer had told me that my car looked like a stolen vehicle, which doesn't make any sense to me. Why wouldn't you just run the plates? So I don't know exactly what his intention was, but yeah, I was drinking. That was it, and I just told him the truth. And luckily, they didn't tow my car. They parked it over at the Hillsdale Shopping Mall, and I got my 4th DUI at the time. So I got taken into custody. My plan was to just go sleep over my Barnes & Noble parking lot for the night, and then come home in the morning. But you know, this was another consequence I had to go through. The next morning, after I was released from jail, I came back to the house and I told Shauna what happened. And you know, there's a lot of guilt, and shame, and worry, and stress, and anxiety. I just got out of rehab. I'm trying to put up this front like I needed her and I wanted her. It was actually a pretty pathetic performance on my part. I remember I was on my hands and knees begging for her to let me stay in the house. And I really didn't want to go to a clean and sober house and live with a bunch of people. I was sick of going to rehab. I was sick of being around people. I wanted to validate myself and seem normal to others. I was more worried about my reputation than I was about getting well. I wanted to save my face and save my ass at the same time. It's not possible. So she wasn't going for it, and that's fine. And I eventually moved into a clean and sober house. I'd taken a job at the Elephant Bar restaurant in Burlingame. And you know, things were going well, but I still was worried about the consequences of getting this 4th DUI because it was my 3rd in 10 years now at the time. So I was in this clean and sober house, and you know, I'm getting to meet some new people. And I remember I was in a 2-man room with the assistant house manager, who I didn't get a chance to meet up with. He happened to something happened. He got kicked out of the house, and I didn't know why. But apparently he was out in the forest with one of our housemates on a hike, and it turned into a sexual encounter that he caught on videotape, and the girl didn't appreciate it very much. And as he was receiving oral sex, he was videotaping it, and she opened her eyes and found out, and it was all bad. So he got kicked out. So I had my own room. I was like, great, everybody else is a 4-man room. I got my own room now, right? So one of these little surprises that happens under certain circumstances occurred, and a couple of days later, I'm in my living room, and an old high school buddy and an old Little League friend walks in, and I found out that he's my new roommate. So instantly we had this bond, and it was a great bond for close to a year. And it was great because we could trust each other. We were in the same room. We didn't have to worry about our belongings getting stolen. And it was great to get back in touch and be able to identify with the issues we were having with our troubles with alcohol. So, you know, I still was trying to understand why we couldn't co-parent together. And, you know, there's this guy who's quoted in this book that I received as another gift. Dr. Wayne Dyer wrote this book called Wishes Fulfilled. I believe it was in like 2012. And it was a gift actually from Shauna later on from this period. And in this book, he takes a lot of quotes from this author and some might say a visionary, some might say a prophet. His name was Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard was born in the West Indies in Barbados. And at an early age, he came over to the United States to attend college. And he began giving these lectures, and he was trying to get across quotes and could get across these spiritual messages that ancient people in ancient times were living by, and how they can work in today's society. So Neville said, "Do not try to change people. They are only messengers telling you who you are. Revalue yourself, and they will confirm the change." Again, that's Neville Goddard. He's got some great works. So I didn't have a very good concept of myself. I was falling apart. I was approaching 90 days of sobriety, but I wasn't working with any type of mentor. I was going to some group therapy, and I was going to work, and I was trying to get things back in the physical world and be able to provide for my kid, but I still wasn't taking care of myself the way I should. Neville also said, the cornerstone on which all things are based in a man's concept of himself. So I had this delusional concept of myself that I was just being responsible, and I was really hurting inside, and I wasn't taking care of myself, and I was still out of balance. I wasn't seeking scripture like this or quotes like this to stay along the lines of a God-realized life. My life was falling apart inside, even though the bills were getting paid, and I was paying some child support. You know, I was still filled with all this guilt. It was killing me. I was guilty because I was also facing this DUI, and I hired a lawyer, and we kept getting pushed back. The date getting pushed back in court, hoping that I get some type of jail time credit for being in this clean and sober house, even though it wasn't like a facility or a rehab. So I had all these other agendas. I was still waiting for this relationship to change and for the parenting situation to change, and I wanted things to be comfortable for me. It's a form of entitlement, it's a form of selfishness that I've talked about in the past. So I'm doing this new job and I'm performing well, I'm feeling appreciated, management likes me. I got to work with my main man, Jimmy Long, from back in the day, and life was good. I was meeting some new friends at the workplace, and then I remember I had this relapse about 90 days after being into the clean and sober house, and I stayed the night out, and I drank all night, and I got a hotel next door at the Vagabond Inn, and for some reason, even though I was going to get away with it, I told on myself. I called the house manager, and I revealed to him that I had drank. I missed the next day at work, and this was the first time in a corporate environment that I had to admit that I had a problem with alcohol, because I didn't show up to work the next day, and the manager was very understanding. He was giving me some type of commendation he was commending me for being a clean and sober house and trying to get my life together. But I just explained to him that I went on a run, I couldn't stop, I couldn't go to work. So I was honest. And I had to pay this $200 fee to get back into the house, and things just weren't changing. I was still suffering from guilt. It absolutely sucked. Still living in fear, still walking on eggshells, still trying to co-parent, but not spiritually taking care of myself. I still refused to go back to prayer. I still refused to do an honest appraisal of myself. I was showing up to these groups. I was going to work. I was showing up for my kid. You know, I'd take her for these cute little walks. I remember going down El Camino many times in her pink little car, like, not a scooter, not so much a baby walker, but kind of looked like one of those Hot Wheels type things, or, you know, you get the gist. You've seen it before. It's a car the kids, ride in, they pretend they're driving. And people would be honking at us on El Camino, and she'd honk back and say, Stella, honk the horn. She'd go beep, 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 and she got a kick out of it, and she'd point at the cars, and people would wave. And sometimes I'd see friends of mine, and it was cute. It was a lot of fun. We'd go down 25th Avenue in San Mateo. I'd sneak her a little couple donuts and little pieces of donuts, or maybe an ice cream. And it was fun being a dad. Those were the good times, man. But unfortunately, my guilt, my worry, and my stress were killing me, and I just wasn't ready. I'd like to close this shortened segment of the Dan Banchero Show this week. One of the best books I've ever read was Your Erroneous Zones by Dr. Wayne Dyer. This is Dr. Dyer's take on guilt. Guilt is not merely a concern with the past, it is a present moment immobilization about a past event. And the degree of immobilization can run from mild upset to severe depression. If you are simply learning from your past and vowing to avoid the repetition of some specific behavior, this is not guilt. You experience guilt only when you are prevented from taking action now as a result of having behaved in a certain way previously. Learning from your mistakes is healthy and necessary part of growth. Guilt is unhealthy because you are ineffective in using your time and energy in feeling hurt, upset, and depressed about a historical happening. It is futile as well as unhealthy. No amount of guilt can ever undo anything. I was completely immobilized. There were some feelings of jealousy because Shauna was now in control of the baby. I was guilty because of the actions I've taken and the consequences of my reactions in life. I was in fear of the consequences facing me, and I could not focus on taking care of daily tasks. It was a huge distraction in my life. So I had to get through my guilt, but at the time I was unwilling to take a look at these things and work through them. I was not taking any of the proposals that were presented to me in the past that worked for me before, and I suffered the consequences. So anyway, that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. I want to thank my main man, Doggy Dog, Oscar Aguayo, for giving me some pointers on helping spread the message of the Dan Banchero Show today. It's great to meet him and his son Francisco. And if you're listening, you don't have to suffer. I'm living proof that we can get through some of the toughest times, and we can get through the guilt, we can get through the mistakes. But with that being said, if we don't stop on time, some of us will die. Anyway, I'm Dan Banchero. Here's to feeling good all the time, and I'll see you next week.